Hey,
Hi there, Steph. All right.
I'm good, babe. How you doing?
Absolutely fantastico.
Oh, happy birthday for yesterday.
Oh, thank you very much. What a busy day I had yesterday. Oh my goodness.
What did they
Just
spoil you rotten?
yeah, spoiled myself with a lot of work.
Oh
It just
no!
it just never ends. And yesterday, for some reason, just the work came flooding in. Tenders to write with deadlines like pretty much the next day today. So I was up till like 3 o'clock in the morning, writing lots and lots of stuff.
Dude,
And then having meetings at 11 o'clock at night that go on till 2 o'clock in the morning because some of the providers, because it's Ramadan, I've had to
yeah, of
accommodate for that
course.
as well.
Yeah, you've got to
But
make sure
apart
that
from
obviously
that,
before 6 o'clock fasting starts and stuff like that, right?
yeah, or after 11 when they finish the mosque.
Hold on, let me just change my Wi-Fi network. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, all right, no worries.
Let me know how that is because we've got two within the house, and I want to make sure that we're on the best one.
It's sort of breaking up a little bit.
Okay, was the other one better?
I think the other one was better.
Okay.
If it looks fuzzy, it's okay because when I edit it, it can sort out the quality. There you are.
Better?
Slightly better. Let me see if I can do anything
Okay.
on my end because it says.
Okay. Because it's saying I've got 3 bars, but when you're in the sticks, there's like the chances of fiber
Yeah,
are
I was
so.
just about to ask.
Yeah, I'm coming to you from my kitchen in the countryside. Um, and
Okay,
yeah. Is it still not working? Because if it's
that's
really
fine.
bad, I can move to another spot.
I can hear you. That's fine. The video quality is a little bit fuzzy, but that's fine. That can get rectified
Okay,
when I
hold on a
edit
minute.
the
Hold on a minute.
videos.
I'm gonna try one other thing. Okay.
Okay.
Give me 2 tips. How are we doing now? That definitely
You
should have
sound a
helped.
lot better now.
Right. Okay. So that's
You
really good, but not visually.
Yeah, not but the visuals it's okay because I can update it to like a 4K when we finish the video it improves it.
Oh, because it records it. It's Riverside. It records it at my side and it records it at your side, doesn't it? And then it uploads
Yes,
to
it
the.
does. Yeah,
Okay. That's cool.
yeah. It's all good. How are you doing anyway? How are you? How's everything?
Ah, well,
Oh
I'm.
no!
What's the matter?
Oh, you were
What's the
just
matter?
breaking up there.
Oh, come on. Okay, hold on. One thing that what like it's just driving me nuts. Um, let's see. This might have to be like a tour of the house until because Riverside seems to absolutely eat the bandwidth up more than like Google Meet or anything. Hold on 2 seconds. How is that? I am now currently like sat on at the piano. How is
That's
that?
actually better, to be honest. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's better. I can hear you loud and
Now,
clear.
the only problem that we might have is that we've got someone doing the windows in the dining room at the moment. Hello, Scott.
Oh, that's fine.
You sure?
We just have to adapt. We have to adapt with the current situations, right? If you
Yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah.
adapt to change, then
So I'm currently sat at the piano. That'll have to do, right? And now we've got okay. So you've
yeah.
had cat. Now this is dog. All coming to say hello. How am
Animal
I?
lover.
Yeah, oh, big time.
Yeah.
How am I? How am I? How am I? Um, Still lots of processing, my love. How about you?
Lots of just the way things have changed and just falling into place. It's like, well, I wouldn't say falling into place in a good way and a bad way. So I'm just accepting the change with grace.
Oh, yeah, I get it. I get it. Hold on. I
And
can just see the fireplace grate in the shop. Hold on. Can you hear that?
yeah, I can hear that. Yes.
Can you hear the drilling?
Yeah. But I can remove the noise.
You can? I don't know how long he's going to
Yeah,
be
don't
doing.
worry about it. Don't worry about
Okay.
it.
Um. So yeah. It's isn't it, hasn't it been strange, like the integration? I think this time, you've done it before, right?
Yeah, yeah, deeply,
Yeah.
many
And
times.
how have you found the integration this time? It's a really nice group of people. Like my last time was not as friendly, like friendly,
No, really?
but not as friendly as this one. Yeah.
Oh, that is really strange. I've always found it always to be really friendly, like every
Yeah,
time.
this like other times, yeah, but the last one, no, and then this one, just like, but like people really, really care in this one, like
Mm.
really,
You know what
like
that might be? It might be that we've come into the age of Aquarius, and everybody is dropping off all that doesn't serve them no more. Everybody's
yeah,
stepping into their true light.
maybe it's receiving. Maybe I'm more open to receiving now. I don't know, like
Maybe so, Steph. Maybe so. That is another way to look at it. But
yeah,
other than that, accept it with grace and just yeah,
I love it. I love it.
accept it
So,
with
what
grace.
what is the format for today? How are we doing it? What are we doing? Walk me through. Tell me everything.
Listen, this is just absolute free flow, Steph. Um, Basically, I just wanted us to continue such a wonderful conversation that we started that we never got to finish. Well, no, I wouldn't say
Totally.
finish, but
But
we could
continue.
have
Yeah.
carried on, yeah, and probably for a good reason because this is probably the best. This is like a really good platform to kind of carry on sharing what we're talking about. Especially, I want to learn. You know, I'm so intrigued about what you do, your background, your history. So much, so really intrigued, and how you've come out to be doing what you're doing. You know,
Oh, no, that's
inspiring
really
others, inspired to be inspired, and I'd certainly feel very inspired from your story, and I'd love
oh,
you to share it.
crikey. Okay. Where do you want me to start?
Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking. We can start anywhere, wherever your heart wants to take you, Steph. Let's go down that way. Whatever's close to your heart right now,
Cool.
anything.
That's
It's free flow, free flow.
okay.
Let's do it.
Um, I had a bit of an epiphany recently, and I have realized that, all of those things I used to chase. Do I want like the big title or the big awards or the car or the house or the holiday? Like I had a real epiphany that none of that matters. I've achieved so much more than I ever expected I would achieve. If you told, 18-year-old Steph, who was a teen mum who'd just given birth to a baby at 18, tip traditionally written off, teen mum, you're a statistic now, thank you. If you'd have said to her that she'd have achieved everything she has, that Steph would have laughed. But also at the same time, that Steph didn't care about the future too much. It's quite an interesting one. And then I think the other side of it is now being here and realizing that none of that stuff, and it is stuff, matters. I'm kind of looking at the journey of how I've got to that realization. And,
Mm.
you know, I used to sell people stuff that they didn't need for a living. I worked in advertising for a long time. That was literally my job. Stuff. Right. Buy this shampoo, buy that car, buy like this. That was my life. And I had a wake up moment there, and I leaned into it. I was like, I don't want to sell people stuff they don't need anymore. And then other little actions like everything that I bought clothing wise, apart from, pants and socks and underwear, I started buying pre-loved because I became acutely aware. I worked with a fashion brand. I became acutely aware of the damage of fast fashion and all
Mm.
these kind of steps in life. It took a while to actually start waking up to them and, being aware of what I was being shown, right? It was almost as though life was putting me in these environments so I would learn that they were not valid or not useful or not where I wanted to be. These moments helped so much. So, I've been buying pre-loved for 5 years now, and it's something that I am absolutely going to stick to, because one, it's a bit more fun. Two, just popping down to the shops is a bit too like easy, and you always end up looking like everyone else anyway. But also knowing when I put something on that it's guilt free, or at least a lot less guilt ridden. Who wants to wear polyester anyway? We've just been at a retreat where kind of like those kind of things, they're going to inhibit how you feel your environment, right? So there's another, then I took that kind of pre-love thing a step further, and it was like, well, I'm only going to wear natural fabrics, right? Cotton or linen or silks and things like that. And actually feeling the difference in my body and being like, nah, that's not real. That's just me imagining it. But then also the more I kind of put myself in those spaces with business and things like that, the more it was like, well, hold on, I can repurpose my skills for good. I can repurpose those skills that were used to, persuade people to buy and do and behave in certain ways. I can actually repurpose them for positive purposes, right? And that meant working and consulting for government and local government, and also working at a national level, having conversations with business leaders from large companies who have no idea how to speak to people, but know that it's all about tech efficiency. Leaning into the fact that sustainable products, right? If you give people a choice of, should I buy the green product or should I buy the cheap product? Most of the time in a cost of living crisis, people are going to buy the cheap one, right? But there are so many other ways to open up better choices to people, and they're just not aware of them. So I've worked with some really big brands on how we do that, right? And it's been absolutely fantastic, and I'm really privileged to do that. Have I lost you? Have I lost you, Julio? Or am I back? You've paused
I've
for
lost you
me.
then.
I did. I
You
lost it.
pause for me.
Actually, my other half's just driven back in, and I'm like, I'm going to blame him for like causing the blockage in the signal. This is what it's like in the sticks, right? So you will hear
Yeah,
some
of course, yeah.
doors going. But then
That's fine.
I think oh, you're going to hear a door bang. Hold on a minute. Hello, darling. Sorry. So that was step one. But then also, again, getting into education, and doing something really transformative for a lot of people. And it really hit me. I just thought I didn't want people to make the mistakes in business that I had made. So that's why I got involved with One Day. But then one day I was in a meeting with the CEO, and it was with our PR company. And he just turned around and went, Steph, do you know how many people whose lives you've changed? And I was just like, nah, that he was like, no, you've helped over 250 entrepreneurs and founders launch businesses, scale businesses. He's like, but think about all of the people in their families that have been affected and influenced by that. And then so and so. And it just hadn't occurred to me. This is something that I was doing because I wanted to use my skills for good and help other people and make sure they didn't make the mistakes I made in business. Because, my agency and kind of consultancy side of it was absolutely fine. But when I tried to do my first products, oh my God, I crashed and burned because I didn't do things, in the right ways. And I was arrogant. I went, oh, I've made loads of brands famous before, I can do this. But there's just startup and scale up. There's so much unlearning you have to do from the corporate world, right? And it's a totally different experience. So yeah, and then being involved with this One Day that effectively gives people choice, but also enables them to do brilliant things, and save them time. That's been wonderful. And now the next stage is we've moved from the southwest to the Midlands, to the east. My partner's family, they're all from around here. And one of the things that really struck me was how people are living. Okay. In the south, it's a very different way of living. There's a lot of money. It's very affluent. And I came up here and I kind of went, oh, hold on a minute. There's a real disparity. And there's a bit more of a disparity than I spotted down in the south. And I was in it then, right? It was a problem I experienced, or not problem, but I could see challenges. And I went, well, hold on a minute. I've got a nice house. I've got a nice car. I have a job and I've got a company that I founded with amazing co-founders who are just incredibly brilliant women. I'm advising on these boards. And I went, I need to actually really stump up put my money where my mouth is now. It's not just about me helping people. It's actually about putting my money into it. And I've decided to invest in property specifically for social impact housing for key workers. So I was in hospital recently, as you know, and St Thomas's in London, and then Grimsby Hospital up here. And I've got to say, St Thomas's was just crazy. It was busy. I had a really traumatic experience, was put in a room, and that was kind of it, because they're so overstretched. And then I was pushed to Grimsby Care, and oh my God, the nurses, the doctors, the staff, the receptionists, the hospital's spotless. And the realization hit, it's my turn to help these people. I'm a businesswoman now, and I'm frustrated with government choices. I made a comment the other day on number 10 Downing Street's Instagram post, and they were saying we're reducing national insurance. And I just went, no, we're grown-ups. The national insurance pays the NHS. The NHS is already massively overstretched. We know you need more money, but do you know what? When you have more money, start spending it properly. Okay, let's rejig this. There's a fundamental issue. So I had a chat with my other half, and I went, okay, I've got a little bit of cash coming. What can I do with it? And I've made a decision that I don't need to make profit and interest on everything all the time, right? Why do we always need to be like smashing it and making loads of money? And we don't. That was a real penny drop moment in my life. It's not always about constant growth. Why can't we be all right with ticking along nicely? Why can't we be all right with just seeing gentle progress? Right. And this is something that's been baked into our society as a whole and culture. Always pushing, always growing, always maximizing. Right.
More.
Right. So I've made the decision of housing up here is a lot less than in the south. So repurposing my money and buying houses that I can then rent to social impact, kind of like people who run this country for us, who we trust our children with, who take care of us when we're sick, right? The people who, save our houses when they're burning down, right? The people who take care of us, that the government are not being honest about and taking care of properly. You've got junior doctors on £12 an hour. The London cost of living, like hourly rate's going to go above that soon, right? These people are not being taken care of, and it is my job, how I see it now, that if I can go and buy a house that a four-member family, one's maybe a nurse, one's maybe a teacher, who knows, someone's just a teacher, maybe someone's a doctor, and they're stretched every month financially, right? I don't need to make profit and grow all the time. Actually, what I can do is I can let my money sit in that house, buy them a house, and I can reduce their rent by £1,000 a year, right? And if that means they get to go on holiday, or if it means they get to save up to buy a house over 5 years or something like that, if I can take my greed out of the equation and repurpose my money to help other people and give them a chance to have a better life, enjoy their life, when the government are not increasing their salaries, or there's still this kind of disparity between what they are and should be getting, then I'm going to do it. So that's what I'm doing. That's the next thing. And that's where I am right now.
Such an amazing and inspiring journey. So these epiphanies that you've come up with takes a high level of self-awareness and empathy towards others and very selfless service. And for you to get to that point in life, you must have experienced the real lows to be able to understand and relate to people in that sort of situation, right?
Totally.
And
totally. It's actually one of the reasons that our business that we have, Divergence, exists, right? So I lived my entire life with undiagnosed ADHD. And I know it's a real buzz term at the moment. I know a lot of people are talking about it. But when I discovered, when I was reading a newspaper, when I found out, when I pieced it together, and I had a great job. I was the youngest partner at one of the UK's biggest companies. Like, again, punching, right? Punching above that, what that 18-year-old kind of would have considered where she should have been. I was offered the head of experience for the whole kind of consultancy of the company. And I adored the senior management team. Oh my God, working with them was just, they were just dreamy, right? And I know a lot of people can't say that with confidence. You know, I've worked for bosses who've been awful, but also I've worked for bosses who just didn't get my way of working. It wasn't their fault. At the time, I was aggrieved and frustrated. But looking back, now I've got this kind of self-awareness of who I am. I go, oh God, I must have put them through it, right? So I was reading a newspaper in my office, and it was a slightly dramatic moment. I was like, Christian, to my other half, you've got to come in here. I read it to him. I was like, sit down. And it was an adult ADHD diagnosis that the guy had, and I was and it was like a mirror image of my life. Freelance contractor, so I was constantly like kept buzzing and dopamine hits and things like that, because I needed that chase, I needed that kind of edge. But also the way he didn't have the best relationship with like things like alcohol. Like I loved getting drunk with my friends, right? But I didn't have an off switch. Right? I was a really happy drunk. I didn't have an off switch, and I'd be like, "Let's keep going, another bottle of wine." Da, 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 da. And that was not cool. I now don't drink. I've had a couple of times in my life where I stopped drinking before I had the diagnosis, where I took like a year off or 2 years off and things like that. But now I've been alcohol free for a number of years. It was actually after a trauma where I lost twins in the second trimester, and I decided to get really drunk to deal with it. And then that went on for a few weeks. It's like, no, now is the time to give up. And I just went cold turkey. And I've now done that with caffeine. And I've now, I don't have coffee anymore. I know a lot of people go, how do you do that? The headache I got from giving up caffeine for those 2 weeks was more painful than giving up alcohol. Right? And it's nuts. I used to be a Diet Coke addict and all these things. But so these experiences, these kind of moments in time, and I do kind of look at them as moments in time. The ADHD diagnosis was an absolutely fundamental one, because it was as though someone took the stabilizers off my life the first time. I knew what I was working with. So instead of being a victim to it, I was like, okay, how can I use this as a strength? And again, I know that this is quite divisive in the community, but I'm naturally quite positive as a person. And I decided to look at all of the things from this identity setting experience. And I was like, actually, there are lots of positives in this as well as negatives, right? This term is really kind of challenged in the community. I do have superpowers. My ability to construct ideas, innovate, creativity, all of those amazing tools, but also empathy for other people, becoming friendly with people really quickly, having all these experiences. They're superpowers. And I was like, yeah, they are. But then also I've got kryptonite. I would rather go through physical pain than do admin, right? That is one of my kryptonites. But I've also had serious burnout. As I mentioned, my relationship with, going out and having a good time, not healthy, right? But having this kind of understanding, but also a natural optimism, meant that instead of being a victim to it, I was like, how am I going to be a victor, right? How am I going to be victorious because of it? How am I going to be brilliant because of it, not in spite of it, right? And that is a reframing that, imagine if you're a 6-year-old kid who's been told their entire life they're a hyperactive pain in the arse. How do you think you're emotionally going to feel? You're going to feel like a pain in the arse as an adult, and you're going to be a victim of this condition, right? So we all have to be a little bit more sensitive to everyone's personal journey. You can't just kind of blanket kind of go, oh, they're this, they're that. It doesn't work like that. We all try and label a little bit too much. We all try and kind of like put wrappers around stuff, because it's for us, like it's easy, right? If you can put a label on something, how does it make you feel? It just makes things a lot easier.
You feel boxed in, caged in.
Right. So that's the one side of it. But the other side of it is like, well, you stay in your box. You know, we even use that as a term, like get back in your box, right? And these ways of approaching people are just they're not positive, they're not helpful. And an amazing woman, Shah, who posted this week about National Autism Day, and she was like, autism is my superpower. But she then went to explain that actually, yes, some of these things are her superpowers, but also at times she has things that part of her world that are disabling, right? She had a really balanced approach. Some of the community weren't happy with it, the neurodivergent community, and some loved it, right? I was one of the people who loved it. And that diagnosis actually was when we created, or when I reached out to our clinical nutritionist, Lara, who I'd met at health retreat. I said to her, right, I'm still breastfeeding my youngest. I can't take Ritalin or Adderall. Also, I'm not sure I want to. I don't know if I want to take that, you know, I don't know how I feel about it, because the way, layman's terms, what it does is our brains are moving at a million miles an hour. And what you're doing with stimulant medication is it's helping raise your nervous system so it matches the way your brain is moving. And, you know, if I take a stimulant medication, it's the day my accountant loves me. I get all my admin done. I'm like a machine. But actually, what I have found is it turned my creativity off, which I really like. Creativity, innovation, experience, that is my currency. That's how I add value, right? So I couldn't really have that. So that's when I came up with the idea for an all-in-one of this supplement stack that she'd give me. And she'd give me a supplement stack. It was like 50 pills, maybe 40 on some days, like 500 quid a month. And it worked. It was amazing. But I was like, yeah, no, I can't keep, like, Monday morning sorting out the pills into pill pots, nightmare. And I, like, one day I was like shoveling them down, like fistfuls of pills, and I like almost choked. I was like, okay, if I'm having this problem, other people are having this problem. And in the back of my mind, I was always I was always hear people say things like, I came up with that idea, or yeah, you know, that like idea for that product over there, I came up with that idea. And it was a moment of, well, okay, you may have come up with an idea, but did you follow through? Did you make it happen? Did you action it? Did you like go through the peaks, the troughs, the valley of despair to make it happen? No. And I was just like, okay, we can't sit on this. We actually have to do it. I need this. It's a problem I need solving. Let's do it. That was 2 years ago. And we have done everything right and by the book. And one of our business partners is like, her daughter's neurodivergent. She's just like, girls, can we just move a bit fast, please? We've got all these brands over here making claims that, you know, advertising standards are not going to be okay with. And we're like, no, every single thing has to be right. Like the HFMA, we're members of the HFMA. They've signed off everything on our packaging. Like every claim we make about helping with focus, energy, cognition, well-being, we're antioxidant. Like every claim we make, because everything is science-based with our product. A clinical nutritionist with a background in neuroscience and psychology developed it. She poured over every bit of peer-reviewed science. You go to our website, there is not one, there are all the ingredients. There are peer-reviewed papers and the PMIDs and hyperlinks to the paper. There's no gatekeeping. So everything we put in, we explain why, and we let you go and research it yourself. Okay, and everything is a potent dosage. Like most of the time, you go to a supermarket or somewhere to get your supplements. Most of the time, it's a sugar pill, and most people don't realize that. So that, like, for me, being able to do something like, we've got nurses who specialize in ADHD, who have ADHD, who are using the product at the moment. We've got investigative journalists from the Times and the Guardian. We've got Netflix actors, like one of our brand ambassadors, he's in The Witcher. It's kind of nuts who we are touching, and we've not taken any investment. We might do in the future, but we've made sure that we're self-funded because we have total autonomy over how we're doing it. We might not be growing at a crazy, crazy rate, but the people we are helping, like we've always said, we would rather 100 people become obsessed and love our product than 100,000 who just think it's all right. But we are personally kind of like supporting a whole whole group of people who want to optimize, they want to increase their focus, they want to be the best versions of themselves. Like, it was originally for neurodivergent minds, but what we've discovered is anyone who wants to be like the best version of themselves, who wants a nootropic that's going to like deliver, they're like obsessed with it. And we've also got a number of other products coming. So we've got a cookbook for neuro nourishment and neuro nutrition, coming with a really, really well-known chef, because that came out off the back of a meeting with the CEO of one of the biggest kind of charities in the UK for neurodivergent conditions in business. And he said to me, like, Steph, how do I get an omega into a chip? Like, all my kid eats is beige food. So we were like, problem, let's go and solve it, right? And then also other things, like we've got a sleep product coming, because we know a lot of people really struggle with sleep, but one that works is not just some kind of like average hot chocolate that says it's going to help you and just doesn't. But also we've got other things coming, like B2B services. We do a lot of workshops. Last week we did an amazing workshop for TikTok, helping them on how to really lean into their neuro wellness. We've done them with Alexander McQueen before. We've got some more coming up. And also we did a couple of big events last week where people were like, oh my God, we get it. Like, what you eat, what you ingest, what you consume, it really affects how your brain works. So that's one of the other babies that is a real push to support and help people as well.
That is so much wonderful stuff that you're doing, and so much to take in, and so much that I want to go back and touch on. And I don't even know where to start myself. It's just wonderful what you're doing, to be honest.
Thanks, my love.
Absolutely amazing. So it's hearing your story, hearing a lot of things about how you used to be, and also finding out about your ADHD. It's like, for me, it's like a reflection of myself, in terms of like, oh, I can relate to that. It's like, and as well, for the fact that you're always like looking for opportunities and problems to solve, like in each and every situation. Like, it's
big time.
I can so relate to that.
Give me
in
an
so
example.
many ways.
Give me an example of where you've been like, okay, I see a problem, I need to solve it right now.
Okay, just the most recent example that comes to my mind straight away is, this is a big one for me, and it's basically clearing my past, making peace with my past. And I was a very troubled kid as a past, and doing all sorts of violence. So I had a very big misunderstanding with somebody, which turned into a lot of violence, where I got shot at. And so I actually he never shot you. He came into my house, he shot at me, but I moved out of the way, basically, and I jumped out of the window, I broke my leg.
My God.
So I made peace with this guy. I actually reached out to him last week on Facebook, and he got back in touch with me, and we had a conversation.
Wow.
And from this conversation, we've talked for about 15 minutes, quite briefly, because I was working. But to see that we've come out from a life of craziness and just doing stupid stuff to how we are now, I thought there must be an opportunity here. So yes. I've actually I sent him a voice note literally 2 minutes after our phone call, and straight away I was like, for what's happened in the past and for us to get to where we are now, I think we have a strong message for the youth and the children growing up today, without a moral compass and without guidance and direction, thinking that it's good to be the baddest person on the streets, carrying knives, carrying guns. So I'm actually going to be getting him on the podcast for a bit of restorative justice.
Oh, that's so good.
Because where I was from, all they know is that story. That's the main. And this happened probably over 15 years ago, roughly. About 10, 15 years ago. So that's all they know. So, and the kids are trying, in that area where I used to live, they're trying to become the baddest person, sell the most drugs and this and that. So if we can come on a platform together and show that, and explain that what we're doing was absolutely like wrong. We thought it was fun, but we didn't realize that the amount of people that we affected along the way, that got traumatized and were holding on to so much guilt for all these years. We can help release that by showing them that there's more to life than doing those things as kids, because the children are our future. If we invest in our children, there'll be a better future for the future generations to come. You know what I mean?
So I've got a question for you. So often we hear kind of politicians and leaders and people kind of going, well, it's all about education and these kids are. I actually don't necessarily kind of subscribe to that narrative. I oftentimes think that if these kids believed that opportunities were open to them, the opportunity would like drive them, their ambition would open up, and actually like everything else would fall under the ambition, because like there's a crazy statistic that the likelihood of your success is more down to your postcode of where you are born than anything else.
that
Right.
shouldn't be the right.
Right. Okay. And there's so many shoulds and woulds and coulds, but this like, oh, they just need to be educated and they just need, but when we've got this kind of traditional education environment that kids are in, like it's like, learning their times tables and things like that. It's very formulaic. It's very worker bee, right? And those worker bee jobs, they don't exist anymore. AI does those worker bee jobs, right? But if you open up opportunity to these kids and going, right, this is achievable to you because of X if you follow this path, not if you do the normal like times tables thing and then you have to do this and that, right? And you have to jump these hoops. No. But opportunities are open to you. Everyone's got a smartphone now. Like literally anyone can go and open up a business and make like 5K a month from a business, right? With a phone. Literally anyone, which is kind of nuts. Like 16-year-old kids are doing it. You only have to be 16 to be the director of a company now. And there's so much change happening. But I don't know. Do you think it's about education, or do you think there's more to it than that with these kids?
There's so much more to just education. I think first and foremost, I'm just speaking from experience and no science behind it, and I think self-understanding first and foremost, self-understanding on your emotion, because everything really begins within. You need to understand how to work with your emotions and how to learn from failure, because people nowadays are just scared of failure, because the education system firstly is like you're either good or bad because of the way they judge you. So they're getting used to getting judged, so it makes them self-conscious. So I think first and foremost it's self-understanding of yourself, your emotions, and how to socialize and talk to people, communicate. And then when this was when the opportunities come in, it's like, what do you want to do? Not like you have to do this. You make them feel valued. Valued, and they will inspire themselves and they'll motivate themselves and they'll find their own drive, because it's all innate and within them to be great. And it's just like the education system is like, no, you do this. You have to sit there. When I was a kid getting told to sit down in class, I was twitching. I want to just get up and go out and run and play, because that's part of your the healthy development of a child happens through play. There's a saying which I came across a while ago, that two people that know each other on an intellectual level can know each other for 10 years, but two people that play a game together, physical game, within 5 minutes know each other more than the people who have known each other intellectually for 10 years.
Stop.
That is
study. What was like, because like I'm obsessed with science, like facts, and like let's not talk about Andrew Huberman kind of like stuff that's come out in the past couple of weeks, like the way couple of days, and the way he kind of communicates around like this study, that study, explaining it. But like I'd really like to understand how they measured that understanding.
Yeah, I don't remember like doing some in-depth research, because this is something.
Yeah, it's just one of those statements.
I'll read something, sorry, and I'll relate it to my own experience and see how I've experienced it, and something about your intuition, which science cannot back. The science doesn't know what intuition is, but it's like you just have this knowing, like, oh, this resonates with me, and all of a sudden you're experiencing it, and then you're like, it makes more sense now. I realize why when I do this, it makes this happen. So it's understanding,
going back to that
of
awareness.
yourself and what you're doing. Yeah.
Amazing. So this is actually, you mentioned failure, right? And like being okay to fail.
Yeah.
Right. So when we're in corporate world, you're given a brief, you're given, something to do, and it's very waterfall. Like you have a beginning date, you have an end date, delivery date, and it's almost like it's like school. Like you've got this attainment you need to hit, and you need to get like the closest to 100%, right? But obviously, every time it's marked, whether it is by a superior or a client or a teacher, it's subjective, right? They are subjectively kind of deciding whether or not they like what you have submitted and what you've done. So number one, big question marks around that. But then also, we're teaching people it's all about the end goal, it's all about the grade, it's all about the result, not about the journey or the experience or the growth, right? And one of the things we do on the MBA program is we actively try and, I mentioned it before, like get people to unlearn everything that they've learned in their corporate world, because we actively say failure is really good. The faster, the harder, and the cheaper you fail repetitively, okay, the quicker you are going to get to the actual nucleus of where you want to get to, the proper result that you need to get to. Failure is good. It gets you to the best result faster. And the best result, you've got to be open-minded about, because it might not be what you think it is. And this is the way you test it to find out, like, you've got to be open-minded enough to go, my opinion was wrong. Okay. And that is so hard for people to do. Like I regularly kind of say to one of my business partners, I got it wrong. Like last week I said something, I was like, do you know what? We should have started that 2 weeks earlier. You were right. I was right. And she's like, and last night she was like, I wish you hadn't said that to me, because and I was just like, that's an old school way of thinking, being able to say I was wrong with humility and confidence and go, yeah, in hindsight, but also, I do that in relationships. I didn't always used to do that, by the way. That's something that's grown and learned and kind of opened me up. But if we can learn to test, experiment, fail, and be open-minded and humble to it, I've been in environments where, people have said things like, I'm the smartest person that I know. And you might be IQ wise, but what about CQ, and what about PQ, and what about EQ, and all these other things? The same person's there, drunk as a skunk, banging their hands on a table, standing up in front of everyone, like forcing them to listen to their opinion. It's all well and good if you've got an academic, intelligence, but where's the EQ in conversing with people and having a conversation where you also grow and you listen to the other person's opinion? Totally lost. And you don't make change by doing that. You don't make change by having an opinion and just being so fixed minded that it's your way or the highway. That doesn't work.
Yeah, this brings me to a very touchy subject regarding failure, and I'm going to bring it to the healthcare system. So this is why a lot of the healthcare system fail, because these professionals in their high status, like being doctors, when they don't want to get proven wrong, and if they're wrong, they're less likely to admit it. Now you compare that with aviation. I know healthcare and aviation. So the airline system, less people die flying in an airplane than they do dying in hospital. There's more people that die in hospitals than there is people flying in airplanes, because aviation learn from their failures, because they've got black boxes in their planes. If something goes wrong, they want to know exactly what went wrong, who did it, and they learn from their mistakes to improve the aviation system, which is what humans need to be doing, is like learning from failure. What do you do with failure? Do you just disregard it, or do you get annoyed, or do you take it back? Do you take the information and think, right, and accept it with grace, and like be like, okay, yes, I went wrong there. How can I improve it? We need to self-reflect. Even just, you can you can relate that to life in general. Like when you've made a mistake in anything that you've done in your life, like oh, I don't want to do that again. You sort of self-reflect. What can I do better to improve? And
This is a very interesting one. So also kind of, people do go to hospital because they are sick. Like the statistics are going to be slightly skewed, right? And also you're speaking to someone who's a RAF brat. My father's in the RAF, my grandfather's in the RAF, my great grandfather was in the army. Like they have very kind of like, doesn't work, test kind of ways of working. This is a really interesting one because I question all professions and industries. And also I now look back and look at being a creative in an ad agency, and I did other roles within ad agencies as well, which also was very frustrating for my bosses because they're like, we can't pigeonhole you, can't label you. Some of the most creative, innovative ideas in business have come from people who have absolutely nothing to do with the process or the product or the service or the outcome. Okay, and let me explain that in a bit more detail. I went into an amazing company, Capita, and I came from a creative background, and it was an amazing opportunity because they were very open-minded about pairing me with like some of the people who are the tech and AI advisors for the government, right? I was working with them, and I became a translator between tech, business, and efficiency, and human, right? In the past, they would never have had someone like me in the room. They would never have considered having someone like me in that space. Everything in like the tech build process or a product that they were going to be building or a service experience or a SaaS or a PaaS platform, right? They would never have had a creative innovation person before. They would always have just had the standard people like the project managers, the service designers, technical directors, digital people, developers, programmers, etc., right? But when they allowed me to come in and see things from a different perspective, we got some amazing results. We came up with absolutely fantastic ideas for new products, services, solutions, right? And it was by putting an extra perspective into the mix, and it shook things up, right? And we got some amazing outcomes. Now, oftentimes what you'll find, whether it's healthcare, aviation, etc., you'll have people who have been trained in their lane forever. Okay, they have been told stick to your lane, do what you do, become a professional, become a specialist, right? This is how we teach people, like specialize, stick to one lane. Generalists as a whole are not as well valued as specialists, right? Personally, I think that's going to change because with AI, with other forms of technology, and in the way we are adopting technology to augment us, by the way, I co-chaired a 2-day event with Wired magazine a couple of years ago with Greg Williams, the editor. One of the key things that came out of it was tech is not here to take away our jobs. Tech is here, this new evolution of tech, to augment us, to actually free us up to be more creative, to be more innovative, to be more human, right? If using an automation system comes in and helps me get 2 hours of my day back that I can then go and spend with my kid, if I so choose. Some people might just want to do those 2 hours extra work, right? What is wrong with that? We've got to a point where we are total workaholics, where every household is a 2-income household. We're a 2-income household, right? Where all of these families' experiences, we are specialize, work, achieve, more, going back to the original point, right? But the reality is, actually, if we open the doors to other people, if we diversify the teams, and I wrote an article about this maybe 10 years ago, something like that, for a website called Little Black Book, an editorial piece. The more we diversify, okay, the better and more innovative our results are going to become. And that means, so I've got a hypothesis about the diagnosis of neurodivergent conditions, right? So at the moment, we've got a plethora of neurodivergent conditions, right? But when you get diagnosed at the moment, like my journey was hypermobility as a kid, then BDD, OCD, anxiety, depression, and then later ADHD and now suspected autism, right? There are now practitioners who go, oh no, everyone who gets tested for ADHD has to get tested for autism at the same time, right? And I'm like here going, well, hold on a minute. Wouldn't it just make a lot more sense from a non-medical perspective, right? But someone who is by profession, someone who looks for gaps, spots opportunities, pattern recognition, etc. But baked into my DNA, literally. Why are we doing that? Why can't we have a process to free up the NHS and also to understand these individuals better, where we test for all neurodivergent conditions in one go? We have a spider diagram, right, of all of them. And then on a scale of maybe 1 to, I don't know, 100, we plot and map. They are, their spectrum of ADHD goes up to 50. The spectrum of autism goes to 8. The spectrum of OCD at the moment, because these things always change, is maybe a 7, and so on. The spectrum for Tourette's is 0, right, and so on and so forth, right? When you speak to me most of the time and I'm not being well behaved, most people would suggest I've probably got Tourette's too, because I'm a total potty mouth. But imagine if you are just known as neurodivergent, right? And you've got a spidergram chart that is showing you where you sit. And then also from a practitioner perspective or a teacher looking at it going, okay, I now know how to help this kid be the best version of themselves because I know what I'm working with here, right? But at the moment, we have specialism in one thing and another. And there are question marks around this route of specialism and almost like closing doors off to other thinkers and diverse thinkers, right? And I'm not just talking about neurodiverse thinkers. I'm talking about someone with a fresh mindset who understands, I don't know, psychology, going into a school and going, okay, there are some things right now I can spot to improve the situation, right? You've got someone who's maybe walked into a house, a kid's behaving in a bizarre way, very harrowed, upset all the time. And the parents are doing everything. They've had practitioners in there doing stuff, psychologists and this and that. And then someone who maybe has an esoteric psychology perspective, right? Goes in, takes one look around the house and goes, yeah, I know exactly what is troubling your kid right now. You need to take all your art down. It's very troubling. It's very stressful. It's very upsetting. And that actually happened to my old mentor and old boss, Daryl. He was called in to a home to do exactly that. And he was like, your art collection is clearly worth a fortune, but you're going to have to sell it or put it into storage because your kid walking past a gun pointed at someone's head every day in a massive photo is not okay. Right? Hearing like heavy, like rap music that's talking about killing people and doing really bad things for your kid every day. It's not it, right? But it takes someone who is out of the traditional environment or someone who has a different kind of area of knowledge but to come into that space and go, hey, there is a better way. We have got like alternatives here. And to do it with humility and not do the whole kind of banging their hands down, you must do this. You tell anyone that they have to do something, what are you going to do? Jog on? No. But again, this kind of mentality in education, hospitals, banking even, right? I wish we could be more open-minded to see that people that aren't just experts, or tick all the boxes might actually just be the solution we need. Some of the best tech entrepreneurs I've ever met have no background in tech.
This is the thing of people staying in their lanes, and also this is a gift that you have. As I'd say, ADHD is a gift because you're interlinking all the lanes, and you can look at one thing, but you're looking at it from like a mathematical perspective or an art perspective, and so it's a great, like you said, it's perspective and not staying in your lane and you need to, again, being open and humble that another person can have a different perspective. Like this this study where they got a glass of water, put it in the middle of a table, got 8 people sat around the table. Yeah, write about this glass and this glass of water. Every single person wrote something different about the same thing that they're looking at.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I've got
so
questions.
Juicy.
I've got
yeah,
questions.
Please fire away.
Have been experiences that you've had where the aha moment has been from someone totally unexpected, or from, I don't know, you've been reading something that's totally non-related and it gives you that light bulb moment. You've got to have had some of those in your life.
Yeah, so many, but can I pinpoint one that comes straight to my mind straight away? Oh, my mind is going all over the place right now. An aha moment. I'll just give you the most recent one. Yesterday,
Yeah.
I had an aha moment.
Yeah.
Again, accepting change with grace and not and not and not resisting, just going with the flow. You know?
That's a challenge. That is a challenge when we've got
Yeah.
these behaviors that we've had for so long. Being open to growth and growth mindset, like, do the thing you don't like, right? That's like a mantra in my head when I'm at the gym. It's like, do the thing you don't like, do the thing you don't like.
Yeah, it is true. To do the thing that you don't like does actually it improves you on the whole, basically. You know,
It
if you
opens
get
you
used to
up.
doing the things, yeah,
Yeah,
because you
it opens
can't.
you
Because also, if you do the things that you don't like to do, that shows that you want to face your problems and whatever it is head on, rather than I can't do that, so I'm not going to do that.
up.
But
Right.
no, you can, because you might not be good at it now, but you can get better. You just have to keep doing it.
100%. You sound like Alex Hormozy right now. But right, so what was this aha moment? Did you follow through on this aha moment?
Yes, I did actually. So it's, again, a story from yesterday, the most recent. I went to work in the evening. You know, I do delivery driving at night time. You know, for big cash in hand work, and
Yeah.
but you know
Cash
they say
flow.
be careful. They say be careful what you wish for. And a couple of weeks ago, I was like, you know, ideally, I'd like to stop that job eventually and do something else. Well, not do something else, so I can focus my time on the things that I'm actually passionate about.
Yes.
So I got to work yesterday, turned my car off, got back. When I got back into my car, tried to start it, it wouldn't start. And
Oh
I was
no.
like, oh no. So I was like, "Man, what do I do? What do I do?" I was about to get into a panic and trying to find a solution, money, this, that. I'm like, but the first thing that came to my mind as soon as it happened, because you got to I've paid close attention to what just pops up in my mind and why has it popped up in my mind.
Yeah.
So the first thing I thought when that happened, I was like, I've actually got more work to do at home. I've got more time to do it, so I won't have to sleep too late. Um, so instead of just following my heart, my intuition, my gut, and going with the flow, I was resisting and trying to fight
Oh,
the forces of nature, the unforeseen forces of nature at play that we don't see. So I could have fought it and self-sabotaged and put myself in a stressful mood and stuff. So I was like, oh, what do I do now? I need to get money and do this. Now I need to do. So instead, I was like, so I rang my ex-partner. I was like, can I please use your car? And she said, yeah,
oh,
yeah, of course you can use your car. So I
see, that
went,
was
I
super,
got the car.
super
Yeah, I
humble.
know, but this is not the end of the story. Very humbling, and I'm grateful that we're at peace. So
Yeah.
I got the car, and then I carried on doing work for an hour. And then I thought, after a lot of thought, a gut feeling was telling me that no, that's happened for a reason. You should be somewhere else. And I thought, because I had lots of work to do for the clients that I have, because I write tenders for health and
Right.
social care providers, and I had deadlines to meet and lots of work to do. So I thought, just I think I'm killing myself and it's not going anywhere. So I made the conscious choice of like, let me just listen to my intuition, my gut feeling, and not resist this, like, and just go with the flow. So I just, after an hour of driving, I went back to work. I said, look, I have to leave,
Yeah, yeah.
and I can't come back and work here anymore. I think this is it. My time is
Wow.
done.
Oh
So I
my
gave them
God.
their money back. I gave them their money back after an hour.
That's been
Took my ex partner's car back. Got to see my son before he went to bed. I got a lift
nice.
home, and I accepted it with grace, because instead of sacrificing my time and my sleep, because sleep is so important for optimal performance.
100%.
So I got back home in time, enough to write 2 tenders, but I still slept late. So imagine if I'd finished work really late, come back home about 10:30 at night, and then I still had all those tenders to do. And I was thinking, I've got a podcast to do in the morning. I need to be fresh. My mind needs to be focused. What's my priorities here? Just listen to your gut feeling. Pay attention to that inner voice within. That was my aha moment yesterday, was just go with the flow. And then all of a sudden, all those worries and cloudiness and things that I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Just disappeared. I came back home,
Oh, my love,
sat on the computer, did my work. I've got very happy clients, very happy clients. Good. It just felt, this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
Doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing. Because what I was doing before, of course, I'm taking food to people's houses. But, I did that job for a long time when I didn't have anything else. When I thought I didn't have anything else, but really I had so much going on.
Yeah, it's going on in your mind. This is actually something really interesting. People's kind of sometimes doing things that take you back, right, and give you space to breathe. Like, again, it's this more all the time, right? Why do we have to be pushing ourselves all the time? Like, actually, do you know what? Going back and doing like delivery work, some of my happiest times have actually been when I've had the least. Like with my eldest, there were times, single mother in London, and we just had the most amazing relationship. Like, we grew up together, right? Luke's just finished his master's degree in physics, right? So, the kid's done good. Like, teen mother, no, won't matter. Like, all of this nonsense, this rhetoric that we spin, right? But there were times when we were together where, I had time with him, and we had time together, and just the bond that we have is so strong. Like, we're so close. He's just a dream, right? But had I work my arse off now. I'm a bit of a workaholic. It's actually one of the things I'm working on. And I'm very conscious of the fact I want that time with my youngest, because, what I had with Luke and that closeness and that bond is just so valuable. But it also meant I put the brakes on work, and I put the focus on him. And I put the focus on us as a unit. And it's really funny, because when you're talking about that, when you went, no, too much, doing these, like, I'm trying to juggle too much. I'm gonna stop one of those kind of like streams of kind of effort, and I'm gonna give it back to myself. God, that's impressive.
It's very empowering, but a very hard thing to do, to actually take a step back in life sometimes. Sometimes you can have such a high status, or or you're used to so much money coming in. I actually made the conscious decision, like,
you're on the wheel, the hamster wheel, right? And you just can't get off.
Yeah, you can't get off, or you don't want to get off, but you've got the choice to get off.
Totally.
So yeah, so yesterday I actually just I just came up with the idea, I'm just gonna get rid of the car, scrapping it. Like, I've got my money's worth out of it. Stop my insurance, give me that freedom, and just go back to basics. And I thought, you know what, it's an opportunity here, because I'm also working on trying to stop smoking cigarettes. I've been working on ups and downs with myself,
right.
And
I have
so
to talk
I use that as an opportunity. Yeah, please.
Right. So, we've got loads of people wanging on about smoking's disgusting. Ugh, those awful things, right? Those are the same people who every week get absolutely hammered, drunk, right? And I just want to say, are you deluded, to all those people who are drinkers but not smokers and really berate smokers? Maybe that smoker doesn't drink, right? On what planet, in what headspace do you not realize that alcohol is just as bad as cigarettes? And if you're going out, right, if you're all of the damage, right? If you're going out, getting hammered, like properly, like drinking, or even if you're just having like too many units a week, and I say this as someone who, like, could pick up a cigarette now and just be like, yeah, well, whatever. And a drink, probably not. All right, I'll be like, oh, let's have a bottle. But that's just kind of like, because I just don't have that off switch. But I really want drinkers who have a go at smokers to get a grip and actually wake up and go, you are, what's your poison is a phrase because it is actual body poison, right? And I'm not getting preachy here. I'm actually standing up for smokers, which is a really crazy perspective to have. But you know, I feel sorry for smokers who, you know, particularly the ones who like, I don't drink. I just, you know, have an occasional cigarette. And then you've got all these alcoholics, borderline functioning alcoholics having a go at the smokers. Something feels a little bit off. And again, it makes me kind of question, like, where has that narrative come from? Who spun it? Oh, okay. Right. We can put the onus on this over here. But, you know, alcohol is part of our fabric. You know, it's something that, you know, community wise has been really important. And I'm not saying like, don't drink. I'm saying don't have a go at other people just because their vice is different from yours. It's not okay because it's just as bad. Get a grip.
Again, it comes. I bring it back down to getting put in boxes. People are in separate boxes, but they're not seeing the interconnectedness within these boxes that they've been put in.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
you know, we're not siloed. We're far from it. You know, as I said before, some of the most creative business ideas. You know, my other half, he's a businessman, and you know, he's not technically an innovator or a creator or anything like that, not by trade, but he spots gaps, he spots opportunities. You know, he's a problem solver. Like I'm after a generation of people who solve problems. Right? I don't care what your title is. I don't care where you come from. If you see a problem and you want to fix it, reach out to me. I'm your girl. Like literally, like if you want me to help you, there are frameworks that like you can go on YouTube and you know you can learn how to do things like lean startup methodology is like my jam. And you know if you look at when I did my first product based business, I set it up like the corporate, like an innovation arm of a corporate, not like a startup. Right, because that's what we're programmed to do. Like most people, their idea of business is, you know, they'll think they've got to buy like loads and loads of stock and like set up a website and set up a shop and and all this stuff. And actually, that couldn't be further from the truth. Before you do anything, before you buy any stock, you know, you're going to want to validate people want your product. Right? How are you going to do that? You're going to talk to people. You're going to meet people in person. Set up a stall in a market rather than setting up a website and going, or set up a website, very easy, 4 hours, you know, quickly do it, Shopify, a couple of quid a month, right? Test whether or not people want it, have the products there, right? And then if people aren't buying them, like having them sit there saying, hey, we've got 6-week delivery, be really honest about it. And then once they've bought it, then you go and buy it and you ship it. Like, you know, that is, exactly. It's the most basic kind of like, that's, you know, not technically drop shipping, but it is at the same time. But you're validating what you want to do. And these are things that are not taught in schools. These are things that are not kind of explained by business studies teachers. And it doesn't really make any sense. You know, like, are we setting people up just to fit a mold? You know, Wolf, our youngest, he's at a forest school, right? And I'm in two minds about him going into the traditional kind of schooling sector because he gets so much joy. He's there like 4 years old, making fires, cooking on a fire in the forest, like learning how to like, huh? He's learning like life skills. We're in the garden planting veg. You know, he's learning how to fix a gate. You know, things like that you know I took for granted that I used to do with my dad all the time. My father was amazing, and he would teach me how to like do plugs and like you know redo a plug at the age of like 8. And you know he didn't have any boys; he had 2 girls, so he was just like treating us like we were part of it. But you know, this goes back to all these rules. I don't like all these rules we've got, these societal, cultural rules that just seem they're so fixed mindset, and that's not where we need to be.
Designed to cage us in and stop us from thinking freely and innovating, because the ones who are in power want to stay in that status and they don't want to be succeeded by somebody else, or they want to keep it in the family. This comes down to greed and wanting more. It's a fundamental thing of like, it's like
I'm not sure.
attachments.
I'm not sure.
No.
I actually no. I don't think they think that heavily. I genuinely think that it's just they're just playing a role that they have been told they need to play in their life, and they just keep
So
doing
it's
it.
unconscious.
Yeah, I genuinely think that. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
understand. I understand.
to the point where I genuinely do. So propaganda works in so many ways, right? And what we're not really conscious of is the fact that there is so much subconscious propaganda that we're absorbing through passed on kind of modes, setups, like the whole school thing, right? Yeah, times tables. Have you ever used a times table in your life, right? And but it's such a massive point of course because look, not being funny, we set up schools to do an amazing thing. If you look up, and this is something Rambir, the CEO, at One Day talks about at length, right? If you look at how factories in the Industrial Revolution were set up, right, with like rows of people, with desks, with chairs, with their kind of units, and then you look at how schools, that was when we had the first schools, were set up, right? Desk, row, chair, like everyone with their unit. We were effectively building a workforce of worker bees to then go into the factories, right? That was mass education. Before that, people who were educated had a governess or someone who was teaching them in the home, and it was a family-based thing or a small community-based thing, right? And we're actually seeing there's a breakout of people who are kind of like shifting and going, oh, no. Schooling wise with our kids, we're going to go back to small. My kid is not a worker bee. My kid is actually going to be open minded. And I think this is something that our mainstream schools don't necessarily have the capacity to encourage. There are amazing teachers, don't get me wrong. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with some of the teachers that I see. But then at the other end of the spectrum, where is the opportunity mindset? Where is the growth mindset? It's like, it's very formulaic, these rules. But again, we've got a lot of politicians who went through that system who still adhere to it and then just not seeing change. And I would personally rather see more business people who had skeletons in their closet, had made messes in their lives, who had apologized for those. Someone who's a recovering alcoholic, right? So all of these people who've had real lives, who've gone through real traumas and real stresses and real difficulty, right? But have, in spite of adversity, achieved and done great things. I would rather they run our country than someone who's a career politician who did PPE, a Russell Group or Oxbridge, right? Who has been in this kind of microcosm their entire lives, who's not seen adversity and challenge and struggle, right? Do they those people have a place? Those like career politicians have a place running a country, when actually I'd rather have a business person who's had to fix things in the face of major challenge. That's the person you want in your corner. That's the person you want standing up to Putin. That's the person that you want kind of brokering a negotiation in Gaza. Like, that's the kind of thing you want, rather than just someone who's, maybe studied at a nice university and stayed within the rules for their entire career. It doesn't really make sense in our day and age. And we're still not questioning it. And we're letting the newspapers dictate to us, because there'll be a politician who has messed up in the past or done something badly or maybe made a mistake with business, right? And they will put them over the coals. You'll have a politician who once upon a time did coke at a party, right? And they will absolutely roast them and say they've got to stand down and they've got to resign and everything. Should they? If they come out and say, no, it was me in a past life, I messed up, I'm sorry, that is not the me I am anymore, look at the work I do, I've got questions. I'd rather that person who's honest, humble, hand up, yeah, I messed up, than any politician who's got a squeaky clean like background, who's never ever had to hustle or challenge or deal with difficulty. But we let our
Yeah.
newspapers put those people over the coals, and then we gang up on them, and it's like, it's like Jesus all over again. He's, kill him, right? We gang up and we do it because, we become a mob. And That is one. I don't know. That's a problem that needs solving. I don't know how to solve that one. If someone who's listening does know how to solve it, please fix it.
This is a very thank you for helping me change my perspective on looking at it like that, because it's a more compassionate way to look at it like that, because it's probably not their fault. It's they're unconscious to it. And yeah, just thinking of how to resolve this is not stereotyping people and people living with them. Everybody needs to come together. We should have like events where, just mixing different people from different walks of life, and let them, gain that experience and understanding of another, where they can, even if they can't relate to another, but should be able to see another person and hear another person.
You've kind of hit the nail on the head with that one. One of the things that I've found, particularly since I've been working with One Day, is oftentimes people will listen until it's their turn to talk, and they're not actually listening to what the other person is saying. They're purely waiting for the pause in the conversation so they can then say what's in their mind. And I had to work really hard. I used to be that person. I had to work really hard to actively go, this person's opinion is probably more valid than mine. If I really listen, it's a struggle with my other half sometimes to really listen. The people you're closest to, it's the hardest to do, right? But if you can actually take the time to really truly listen, you're going to learn something, right? And that makes you better. That grows your mind. That helps you unpack stuff, right? And that was a light bulb moment for me, like going, okay, it's not about what you're about to say next. Sometimes, like, don't get me wrong, like I get really overexcited. I'm like, oh, but it really, like, I've chatting to you today, like, has made me think, and it's made me go, oh, okay, I want to know more about that, right? And hearing your perspective about, this kind of almost like club, right, of people. And this goes back to the postcodes, right? Which postcode were you born in? That's going to determine your level of success in life. That blows my mind. And that's another problem that needs solving, right? But you can pretty much hazard a guess that the people you're talking about were born within certain postcodes.
Your aha moment regarding listening, like it's a practice that's it's hard to actually master as well. I wouldn't say you can never master it.
No.
And I've learned that from doing the podcast as well. If you listen back to my first podcast, I was all over the place, and I realized, no, I need to stop listening, because when I started the podcast, I felt like, oh, I've got so much to say, I want to say, but no, it's not about me. That's when I had to learn to park my shit to the side.
It's funny you say that. I think that, so that, the community that we're part of, there's a lot of people there who are kind of like, this is not about me. Like, when we do our sharing, when we do our talking, like, we truly listen. And that's a really beautiful kind of way of growing, right?
Yeah. Listen without having to, it's humbling. It's humbling to be able to hear everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much to process here, Steph. Like, I'm really enjoying this. So it's such a juicy conversation. I get stimulated by conversations like this, and it like you've got more questions. I've also got more questions. Like, the slogan for my podcast is "Inspired to be inspired," and I'm certainly feeling that right now. It's a great exchange.
Likewise, because I've done podcasts before where I've been overexcited, and I've done the the tour, and I kind of look back and I cringe. I really cringe, because right, you know what I mean. And I think the beauty of this is it's a conversation, right? And we learn from each other, and every opportunity like this should be an opportunity for growth and conversation. How do you get better at anything? How do you become a better version of yourself? It's just, it's not about my agenda. It's about other people's agendas and how can I help them and make it better.
wow, that's so nourishing. It's nourishing for the soul. I find just being able to, sometimes I do it without even realizing. And you never know what the other person is going through, and just a few kind words, you don't know
Yeah.
how it's made that person feel. But then when you get that feedback, like, I'm so thankful and grateful that you said that, it's just what I needed to hear in this moment. It's nourishing. It's inspires me to be better for myself, so I can extend that to other people. Again, this is where the self-love
You're
comes
doing that
back.
in
So
the podcast. You're sharing.
yeah,
You're doing it like that.
sharing. Yeah,
It's impressive.
I did have to question a lot of about my life and what I'm good at and what I like to do, because when things just all fell off, and just you have to be proactive, and instead of playing the victim and saying, I feel sorry for myself, or looking for pity and sympathy from others.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you've got the tools, and be blessed that you can still you can still move, you can still function, and just make the most of it. Just be appreciative. There's so much I want to go back on here, Steph. I don't know what you're like for time, and I don't want to keep you if you got time.
Actually, I do have to run because it's midday now, and also my battery is
Yeah.
about to die. I wish I could. So we can always come back and do it again.
We can always. I know we touched briefly on sorry,
Vision.
Steph. We touched briefly on a lot of things that I was going to talk about anyway, so that's fine, because I was going to talk more about the schools for kids and stuff like that. But
Okay.
yeah, we can wrap this up, to be honest. And I'm sorry I cut you off. We've just been talking about the art of listening and talking and stuff.
So like, don't you worry at all. Like, it's absolutely fine. It's just time.
Yeah, everything in the right time. Everything in the right time. So let's wrap this up, Steph. And just for anybody that's listening who feels inspired and want to know more and have got questions, could they reach out to you, and where can they reach out to you?
This is Moxie. She's my only daughter. So yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, it's Steph Hamill. That's my handle, Instagram, etc. LinkedIn, I'm on quite a lot. That's Steph-Hamill. Just look me up. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, drop me an email. It's stephhamill@gmail.com. If anyone wants to check out the supplement, it's Divergent Supplements. If anyone wants to talk to me about that, it's great. And then if anyone wants to look at One Day, it's oneday.io. Lots, like, just reach out and say hello.
I'm also writing some of this, oneday.io.
Actually, Twitter, I don't really use that much. It's kind of where people go to be angry. I find nowadays, or kind of like hide behind like malice. Instagram and LinkedIn are the main ones socially, but yeah, drop me an email if you like.
Amazing stuff. Steph, I'm really honored, and thank you so much. I've enjoyed such a juicy conversation. We could have talked more and more and more, and I'm so grateful that we've crossed paths. Thank you so much.
Likewise, my love. And I hope that the noise from the window, like the windows being fixed, hasn't been too bad. But
don't worry about it. Don't
you'll
worry
fix
about
it.
it.
I've had the best time, and I really appreciate you inviting me on. It's really kind.
Thank you so much. Right, I'm just going to end the podcast. Please don't leave yet, so that
Don't worry, I won't.